of steam and invention, of magic and mysteries, where nobles wave playbills at scientists who deep in thought nearly trip over pixies, delivering news to tinkerers beneath the stage of New Europa. Sit back and enjoy the scene as the actors act, the singers sing, and the players play out the adventures of Castle Falkenstein. You have been cordially invited to a world of wonder and intrigue, of steam and invention, of magic and mysteries, where nobles wave playbills at scientists who deep in thought nearly trip over pixies, delivering news to tinkerers beneath the stage of New Europa. Sit back and enjoy the scene as the actors act, the singers sing, and the players play out the adventures of Castle Falkenstein.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this fine Monday evening where we play Castle Falkenstein. I am Simon at Wandering DM. I want to welcome all of you to our show. Why is the revelation? Poop. Gonna have to fix that. Someone gave a donation on another stream and it counted towards the bar.
Yep.
So, we're gonna fix that in a second, but first, I would like to thank all of our sponsors for tonight's show, beginning with Artalsorian Games, the makers of Castle Falkenstein, as well as other games that we play here on the channel, such as Witcher and Cyberpunk Red. You should check them out at artalsoriangames.com. Our next sponsor is Mage and Press, makers of 5th edition D&D supplements. Check them out at store.mageandpress.com and check out their Kickstarter that's also advertised on their website for Conspiracy in the Star, the introductory adventure to the sci-fi setting that is Dark Matter. It comes with a bunch of goodies, and they're also announcing something special, I think tonight. Or they did it earlier today, but I couldn't find the tweet. So be sure to check them out, to follow them on Twitter as well. Our other sponsor, of course, is Found Familiar, great coffee company. I have another order in the mail because I cannot stop drinking coffee. Help. But if you also want to taste deliciousness, check out foundfamiliar.com and use code WanderingDM to get 10% off. And if you order for $50 of coffee or more, you get free shipping in the if you live in the continental United States. Our other sponsor is Roll20, the virtual tabletop that we use here to play all of our games. Check them out at roll20.net, and be sure to check out our partners, Level Up Dice. We are going to give away the first set of, I don't have them near me anymore, of special branded aluminum purple dice. I'll bring them back after the break to show you. We're gonna do that through Twitter this week, and so be sure to keep an eye out on that. As for me, I'm Simon. I go by he/him pronouns, and tonight I'm playing Edwin Thayer, the professor of criminology, and the perhaps cat burglar. Perhaps soon to be prisoner? Question mark? And with me is an entire cast of fine individual and even finer role players. We'll go around the table, introduce everyone, and we will finish with Chris so he can take us away in the in our adventures tonight. Let's begin with Alyssa.
Hi,
Adriana.
everyone. Yeah. My name's Adriana, and I use she, her pronouns. And today I'll be playing Ekaterina von Stein. Sorry, my brain is still processing the game. I'll be playing Ekaterina von Stein, an inventor here in this game with these lovely people, and she goes by she, they.
Up next is Kenny.
Hello, my name is Kenny. I go by he, they pronouns. And I play Jasser Firit Ragosian, an actor who goes by they, them pronouns.
Sorry, Pooja.
Hello, I'm Pooja. I go by she, her pronouns, and I am playing Elise St. Pierre, a young American operatic ingenue who is now thoroughly embroiled in the mystery. And Elise's pronouns are also she, her.
We'll skip over our host and go to Deirdre.
Oh, hey, y'all. I'm Deirdre. I use she, her pronouns. I get to play the Contessa Lucrezia Sofia Fioravanti, who is just a charming young widow having as much fun across New Europa as possible and totally not a spy. And she uses she, her pronouns. You know, like you do.
And last around the table, but certainly not least, is our host, the gracious Chris Geary.
Thank you for those kind words, Simon. And thank you to everyone in chat. You are wonderful. And you make every Monday night that much more fun for us. So thank you for being here. Last episode, on Adventures in Castle Falkenstein, we found our cast making their way to dinner. They went to the Cafe Florian in order to access dinner, and in the process of having a wonderful multi-course meal ordered for them by the Contessa, as well as rounds of drinks, secrets were shared. Intrigue began, and the clues were pondered. Then, a contact, friend, acquaintance of the Contessa arrived, dropping off a letter, leaving a not necessarily mysterious, but seemingly coded message to the Contessa upon her departure, for it seemed to lack context. Grammar might have been fine, but context was missing. Within the letter, the Contessa found a message, a poem, another poem by Jonathan Dunn, that was sent to her from someone who, well, supposedly from a former lover, but it did not seem to be connected at all once she investigated it further. So this was a fabrication and only barely handled on the surface. Beneath that layer of information, we find plotting amongst the mind of our dear professor. So as the party chooses to head back to the Contessa's abode, we find ourselves with the professor taking a detour, donning his alter ego and returning to the scene of a warehouse that he had cased earlier upon arriving to Vienna. In that warehouse is a very large safe, one that is nearly the size of a, what would that be? Like a cargo container. More, I'd say 2/3 the size of a cargo container, belonging to one Cora Chillum, a widowed noble here in Vienna, who wishes to keep all of her valuables out of sight. She gave back anything that was hereditary to her husband's family, but kept everything else that was theirs. Anything of high value, the professor realized was not in her home, which is why he cased other properties and found this warehouse and the large safe within. Noticing the number of alarms that would echo out into the streets of Vienna if someone went through the first floor doors, our crafty academician opens the lock and plots their next move. And that is where we ended last episode. So we will begin this episode in the darkened warehouse with an illuminated Professor Thayer. If you remember, as he opened the safe door, gas lamps illuminated, or what he originally thought might have been gas lamps, for that's what it looked like. And a wave of cool air falls forward, encompassing him. There's a slight fog as the room temperature of outside the safe mingles with the clearly refrigerated air of inside the safe. And through that fog, Professor, you see silhouettes. Some look like boxes. possibly a statue, a bust. Nothing that could be mistaken for a person who's hiding and pretending to be a statue. Just a bust on top of a box. You see what you assume are maybe some paintings. As your brain starts to catalog the things within the house that you noticed were reproductions and you assumed might be here, at least the right shapes. And that is what's mostly in the foreground. The change in air temperature causing this sort of obscurement doesn't let you see that far back. So confirmation as to whether or not there's more back there or what's back there is still to be explored. And as that thought falls and you let it ruminate for a moment, why don't you tell the audience about something that has been revealed of your character and the skill related to it that's going to move up from average to good thanks to the generous donations of our guests.
The fog around Edwin's ankles and moving about him, obscuring his view, reminds him of a caper he did a few years ago. A third-story job. Something that went without a hitch. He broke out of the rich apartment his Mark lived in by climbing down the window. Climbing down a gutter next to the window. And as he jumped the last few feet onto the cobblestone streets of London, his vision was similarly obscured, this time not by fog, but by smoke. An inventor, perhaps an eccentric, was using the late hours of the night to test out a contraption of theirs, sort of automated carriage, like a car, except this one kept belching smoke, like something that belches smoke. And the professor had to dodge out of the way quickly. Quick tumble through an alley. Hurt his elbow rolling around. He was not, at the time, the most in-shape individual. But that lesson back then taught him that he should be a little more spry on his feet. He should be a little more active. And even tonight, when the door opened, he was ready to tumble again to the side to avoid whatever was inside. And my skill, as you probably have deduced, was athletics.
Excellent. And as we let that scene of London fade and the slowly crawling cool air that is obscuring some of the professor's current vision crawls out and around his ankles, we're going to cut across to a gondola with a group of 4 people. And amongst them is one Amor Portego. also known to some as Jaser Farit Ragoshin. What is something secret or maybe undiscovered that the fate of this night, the stars aligning, whatever it may be, has brought out from you?
So I'm going to roll this into both revelations that I have because they're interrelated and intertwined. In the gondola, the evening air, Jasser has a lot to reflect upon and worry about, especially with their identity potentially being exposed by some nefarious, unseelie plot. They think back to when they first started becoming an actor and how they had to originally hide their identity to even get a chance at grabbing some spotlight. Jasser was born Francoise Petit, a merchant class whose parents own Cher Petit Florist on Rue de Caire. And they've been living this lie ever since their early teens. And so they're not only worried about being exposed to being Jasser, they're worried about their entire livelihood being upended and uplifted from where it is, especially their station. So, given this awareness, I believe perception would get a bump. And the second one, I was thinking because of the security that Amor has found in being an actor in Venice, échec.
Sounds good to me. Excellent. So, Amor has found a little more stable wealth, which is new to his character. Yes, no?
Yeah, it's definitely new to them.
Yes. And then the perception. Something that Josser has slowly been creeping towards since season 1. Trying to be a little more alert, a little less focused on where the spotlight shines, and a little more aware of the periphery as each scene goes by. And now it culminates with this heightened awareness, a vigilance of sorts that has been thrust upon them due to current circumstance. I love it. Thank you, Kenny. Before we discuss that which Ekaterina will reveal before the end of the night, we will circle back to that warehouse, fading from the transformation of Francois to Jasser to Amor to this new version of self that is finding affirmations with each stroke of the gondolier's pole. The fog is settling, Professor. And in the foreground, it is true, there are boxes, crates, a variety of things, most of which are packed up quite well. What you thought were picture frames are actually narrower boxes. Probably canvases inside, maybe. However, the cold probably won't do the paint any good, so you're not sure if there is an original in there or not. If so, what else was put in there to preserve it? If Cora is this paranoid about losing that which is precious to her, one would think she wouldn't willfully destroy it or ignorantly do so. But who knows how much she knows about science? For you have not met her, nor seen any articles about her, other than the wealth that she has displayed.
And Simon doesn't know, but I figure Thayer would probably know. What kind of artwork requires a temperature to be that low to be kept intact, I guess?
Interesting.
Because just to be clear, I'm not robbing her of her popsicles, so...
No, I know that. Thayer would know that most art, though expert opinions do vary, the range that encompasses high and low ends usually is between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and this is clearly below 30, or well, maybe not below 30, but maybe hovering slightly above. So 1, 2, 3 degrees Celsius.
Thanks. I had to. I was converting stuff. Okay, 65 to 75 is like room temperature. Okay.
Basically, yes.
Okay.
However, if you store acrylic paintings at really low temperatures, meaning 4 Celsius or below, there's a likelihood that the paint film itself will become brittle and would result in damage. Others will even tell you that 10 Celsius is likely too risky. So most likely they are not going to store acrylics per se, but oils, maybe, but even then, you wouldn't want to go much lower. That still probably wants to be in that sweet spot of around, I don't know, 18 or 20 degrees Celsius. That room temperature feel, controlled, not lots of spikes or drops. Stone obviously wouldn't matter unless you get down to severe temperatures or, I guess, swift changes where you would have the contracting and expanding of different particles that slipped in between the crevices of the stone that are maybe unseen by the naked eye. So extreme like this seems negligent.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to have a look around the safe first.
Excellent.
Go to the, the end of it. The part I can't really see at the moment.
Okay. When you reach the back of the safe, you will find that there is actually a wall. You don't actually reach the back. You run into a wall with a door and a lock.
Locks means valuables. I'll get down to picking.
Okay. I am dealing you some cards right now, along with everybody else. I just realized I did not send that y'all's direction.
No problem.
So let me fix that for you. Voila. And you have your hand of 4.
Yeah, but if I don't like my hand, can I change it?
Not yet. Next game session, you'll get a new one, though. Absolutely.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, that works. Yay! I'm safe. I'm gonna use tinkering to crack the lock open. Well, pick the lock.
Excellent.
My tinkering is good, so it is a 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to play the queen.
Excellent. So that is an 18. All righty. As you work the lock, your hands are a little stiff and a little cold. It does take you longer than normal to try and manipulate the tumblers. This lock is also very complex. You're finding that it's not of a make that you are familiar with, though it is not unfamiliar completely, as that would be a little strange. It is just unfamiliar enough that you need a little more time than you might normally enjoy. So, is there anything, or do you want to proceed, or do you wish to change course?
No, I will proceed.
Okay, excellent. So, let me pull up my numbers. And basically, Simon, what I'm doing here is for the target number, you did not quite hit the target number that you needed, but you are close. And so due to that, where is my range? That I need. Excellent. Yes, so we're just going to add a little bit of time at that point for you. So you can't really, let's see, +6, +18. You can't really fail per se. It just slows you down. Fair enough? What you find throughout this process is that you will get a partial success.
Okay.
And it will open. However, being the student of criminology and the teacher of criminology, you will know that you've left traces, scratches, things like that behind about your presence. Now, the only place that you've done it is on the lock. And because it is as cold as it is, you're not sure if it were to warm up how visible it would be, but as long as it stays this temperature inside the safe, they will be noticeable to the attentive eye. Do you wish to try and take time to do anything about that, or just simply make a note and understand that you probably just have one crack at this?
Before I decide to take more time, can I just pause and listen? Do I hear any chatter, footsteps outside? Maybe someone getting closer to the windows?
Would you like to play a card to augment that, or are we going just off your base perception?
You know what? I'm freaking out.
Before you do that, let me get you your new card from the queen that you played, so that way you have a full hand to work from.
Oh, sure.
There you go.
Yeah,
I don't know if that helped or hindered.
It didn't help, but it might help for other stuff later. So an 8, and my perception is great.
Excellent. So that would be an 8 and an 8. That's 16. Yep. You listen carefully, and you do not notice anything out of the ordinary from the regular sounds that you had heard when you approached. And actually, in the warehouse, it is much quieter. The walls themselves are thick enough that it seems to din most of the noise and leave you with enough silence to even casually pick up on any information, or not information, on the sounds of someone trying to sneak up behind you.
All right. Then in that case, and there are no sounds of anyone sneaking up behind me at the moment.
No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
So yeah, I'll keep going at it. The lock.
Fair enough. So, as you finish the tumblers and you open the door, you find on the other side a room about the same temperature. But in it, there are many metal canisters, most of which are copper or bronze, some that are a very thick glass, carrying different fluids. It is some sort of laboratory.
The fuck? What's in the glass?
There are 3 different, very thick glass containers, 2 of which are large, as though they are storing something, one of which is part of a process that is ongoing. You're not 100% sure because there's no way to confirm it. There are no labels, no names, but one of the storage containers is a purely clear liquid that if you did not see the, what do they call that? The line of fluid where it kind of dips down because of the concave lens effect that it has, you wouldn't know that it's there. The other has a slight greenish hue to it. Yes, the meniscus. That's it. The other one that's processing, it's mostly like that fog that you can see in it. You really can't see much else.
And the other ones are basically like copper jars and can they be moved?
As you go to inspect them to see if they can be moved, you will find that they are secured into place with brass fittings that hold them so they cannot accidentally tip or spill or fall off of where they're being held. You get the feeling that this is for the safety of anyone who is in here with them.
And what are they connected to? Like, I mean, they're bolted onto something. Is it just a table, a desk, or is it some sort of contraption?
It seems to be some sort of large metal box, but you don't see any seams. You don't see any doors. It might just be kind of a shelf that's been made out of or added onto the side of the container, and then maybe there's another set of doors on the outside, and there's a different way to maintenance something. Maybe that's where underneath that, but and accessing it from the outside is where this vapor cooling contraption is that's keeping this place refrigerated, of which you would be aware of because that is one of the storage techniques for biologicals in forensic science. So is to find some sort of refrigeration, and that of Ferdinand, Carreri, or Carreri, Carreri, or Carre, there we go, Carre, who discovered this for
himself, the process that he particularly uses in 1859, it's been, fine-tuned over time. And his was, I think, a third-generation version or fourth-generation version built upon previous people. So it's not something that would be wildly out of place or unknown to Professor Thayer.
But there's definitely something biological being kept on ice in here.
Whether or not it's biological versus chemical, you would not be able to determine based on what you can see and how you can test it by any sort of scientific method. So, but there is a liquid of some sort. Your best guess is either chemical or biological.
Okay. Well, I did not come to play science. I came to steal. And I aim to do just that. I will close the door. But I will not erase the traces I left.
Okay.
On the lock. And I will go about looking into the rest of the safe, see what is carryable by myself. Because I figure if I run out with a bust, it's probably going to show.
In those large crates, you'd have to break them open to see if there's anything that you could take with you. Everything that's in this safe, they are much larger. As you look around, the thing that might be easiest to pocket, but you're not 100% sure. But with that 16, I'm going to give it to you. There is a cabinet. Just as you turn around to your right. You didn't notice it before when you were playing with the lock. The door and the wall grabbed your attention. It would have been to your left as you were playing with the lock. And then the door opened that way, kind of obscuring it. So as you exit and close the door behind you, now it's in your periphery. There's a cabinet there. And as you open the cabinet, it's a fairly shallow cabinet. You'll actually find within it 7 gladiuses.
Okay.
They're frosted. You have no idea what's actually on them. There's a sheen of frost from the temperature. But with everything else that's in here, it seems fairly safe that they're probably more than what they seem. But they all hang within the cabinet. There are no empty hooks. It's an odd number per se. But there does seem to be 7 of them.
I mean, it would be feasible to wrap them in a bundle and leave with them. A gladius is, what, 3 feet in length? More or less?
We're talking Roman era gladius. Being with the education that you have, you really wouldn't need to guess on that one.
I mean, the average length is like 30 inches, right?
Mm-hmm. So width, 2 to 3 inches in width, length, 24 to 33 inches in length. The blade length, we would say from pommel to sword tip, these all are averaging on the shorter end.
Okay.
So we'll say around, let's see, what numbers do we have here? It looks like they're on the short end. So you'd have to measure to be exact, but you'd say it's on the shorter end of that scale.
Are there any sheaths?
No.
Okay.
They're simply on like that pair of hooks that comes out and it hangs on them. Like maybe this cabinet was built specifically to hold these 7.
Well, the cabinet is now empty.
Okay. Weight. Not terrible. I would say they're probably around pound and a half, maybe pound and 3/4 each.
Okay. So it's roughly 10 pounds of weight.
Yeah, roughly.
Okay. I will bundle them together.
Mhm.
Do I see anything that could be used as wrapping? Like, is there a frame or a painting or like a canvas that is wrapped in cloth or something?
Nothing that you can find. Everything is either stored in heavy wood. We're not even talking slatted wood. So all of
Okay.
these crates are very carefully put together, more in the style of care and manufacture of, say, coffins, because they are nailed shut, but not in that shape, but that quality of workmanship. Then we're talking shipping crates. So these were all done with care.
I can't really move one around.
Inside there might be something, but you would have to open them and look.
I'd have to open one, but that's gonna make a lot of sound. Are they nailed shut?
They are all nailed shut. So you would also have to have some way to pry them open. And from your inspection, the seam is very thin.
Yeah, I don't want to break a sword doing that. All right, well, seems like I'm going to make away with the armory, and I'll keep the 7 gladiuses, and I'm going to leave. Shut the safe back up.
Okay.
Make sure before I leave that I've left nothing in the safe first, and that yeah, nothing that I've left aside from the signs that I've done something to the door. I want that person to know that someone now knows of their secret, which is probably resurrecting their cursed husband.
Who knows? Possibly.
I'll have to look into that.
Mm-hmm.
I see the rest of the cast are making faces. I don't like that.
So, as Simon, as your character, Professor Thayer, endeavors to make their way out without tripping an alarm, let me get you a new card. Why don't you give me one of those new fangled handy dandy athletics skills of yours to see how successfully you make it out with all 7.
Definitely. This is a 10 of clubs, and average is a +6, right?
Yep. No, average is a +4. And you bumped it
+4
to a 6 because athletics you
Oh,
bumped
yeah, sorry,
to
it's
a
good now. Yeah, I
Yep.
forgot it's good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, yes, you make your way out. You do not drop anything. You do not set off the alarms. You remember place and time and all of those significant modifiers as you shimmy down the outside and work your way toward the, wherever you plan on going. So where do you plan on going with this haul?
Well, not back to my hotel room. I have everything on me. My hotel room's under my name.
Mm-hmm.
I have a new hidey hole. I'm going back to the Contessa.
Okay. So, as Professor Thayer makes his way there, but, yes?
I am going to burglar my way into my room
Okay.
at her place.
Gotcha.
Because I don't want to just show up on the front door holding 7 swords. She'll ask questions.
Mm-hmm. We'll deal with that when you arrive.
Yep.
For now, though, we're going to make our way back to the Contessa's abode. The 4 of you have arrived. You've been greeted and ushered in to the parlor, I'm assuming, for drinks.
Or one of the sitting rooms, either one. You know.
That's fine. Wherever you would like to entertain your guests, Contessa.
One of the quieter sitting rooms, and I'm sure that Monty has a full bar fully prepared for all of my guests.
Mm-hmm.
And assuming that we get back first, because we were intending to go there at the time, she would just say, and we will be expecting the good Professore sometime. He'll show up. And when he
Yes.
does, please have him come join us.
Will do.
So, little tiny people who are pretending to be invisible sitting on Elise's lap and reading letters that she's attempting to do magical things.
Child
Creepy.
specifically.
But is it a child, or were they just looking like a child?
Were they child size, or were they actually look like a child?
Oh, it looked like a child.
Oh, it looked like a child. It might be something else, but it definitely looked like a child.
Somehow that's worse.
It is.
I'm going to refer to the fact that we're dealing with Fae, and the thing wasn't the personage was invisible, and therefore I'm not that I don't believe that is what you saw. I'm just going to put a pin in the idea that that is what it is. Is that fair, Ekaterina?
That's fair. I mean, it could be anything at this point. So
It
we need
wasn't,
as many theories as we need.
but it wasn't just any child. The child I saw, and I assume Ekaterina saw, was, well, he looked a lot like my older brother who passed when I was a child.
How old was he?
8. But I don't know what you saw. When I saw him, his eyes were wrong and there were scales falling out of them, and she will open her fist, which she's been clenching the whole time, and in her hand there is, I believe, a golden scale. This is why I touched the table, because I saw this on there, and even though he vanished, this was left behind.
May I take a look at it?
Sure. I mean, I haven't examined it either for magical juju, but I don't think I'm the mental space to do it, so I just hand it over.
May I inspect this skill if I could figure out where it comes from, an animal of sorts, or is it just purely magical? I mean, obviously it's magical, but can I use my natural science?
Sure, that's a
Or-
great place to begin.
Okay. I have that in good. And natural science is what?
It's diamonds.
Diamond. I haven't looked at my cards tonight.
So good is a base 6.
I'll add.
You also have your +2 if you wish.
Yeah.
So that's a 12.
I'll add my +2.
Okay, so 14.
Yes.
You will notice 2 things from what you see there. The first is that it is definitively, based on its texture, shape, the patterning that you find, a fish scale.
Mm-hmm.
However, the other thing that you can tell very definitively,
Mm-hmm.
due to a number of elements, not just your intellect, it is gold, pure gold. So its shape may be a fish scale. It may feel like a fish scale. You are pretty sure it is a fish scale, but it is also pure gold.
So it's not gold that's been molded to look like a fish scale. It is a fish scale that is pure gold.
Correct.
Okay. She will.
And there are no magics upon it.
Okay, she will go in while she's doing this. The process is like she'll go into her bag and she takes that a little like jeweler's eyeglass. And you see her just kind of like very quickly switch her glasses with the jeweler eyeglass while the other eye's closed.
Mm-hmm.
And look at it, and then switch back. She will kind of like sigh and just, well, it is a fish scale, and it is pure gold. As in, it is a fish scale that is made out of pure gold, not gold that's been made to look like a fish scale.
And there were several of them falling out of his black eyes, right?
Yes.
Or
but,
yeah.
You saw multiples fall, but only one remained on the
Yeah.
table.
The rest disappeared when
the
he
rest
did.
disappeared, but only one was left behind.
Mhm.
How big a fish scale is this? Are we talking like
Hand
You
size,
know-
like palm size, or
like, when you're scraping the fish scale off a snapper? I mean,
Yes, that would be a good example.
So like the size of your pinky or nail or smaller.
Probably smaller. Not much
Tiny.
smaller, but smaller.
Okay.
And small enough that it's not, a huge chunk of gold, but large enough that you would not easily overlook it or possibly crush it as long as you're paying attention. I mean, gold is a softer metal, but
may I say that there is a common theme here as well, which is gold. The notes, the ink had gold in it, did it not?
It did indeed. And that was hiding, pretending to be something that was not.
And whoever was trying to steal that note also had access to my memories going back to my
concerning.
childhood.
Or you were haunted.
Has this ever happened before? Any ghosts or apparitions?
Well, as practitioners of the arts, it's not unusual, but generally these things need to be summoned in controlled settings. I haven't had them just appear without my knowing why or how or being involved in any way.
And you said he was trying to take away this letter of yours, besides looking at it.
Well, I'm just trying to remember what was I casting sorcery to figure out? Again?
The
The
glamour
Contessa-
on.
Yeah, the Contessa knows that the letter is glamored, but she can't
Okay.
break
So-
it.
It might have been a defense mechanism that lashed out when I tried to look through the glamour, because as soon as the letter was ripped out of my hand, my spell failed.
He was also trying to mimic your movements.
That is very odd.
But I didn't sense a negativity to him. He seemed more playful, if anything.
I mean, he winked at me, which is even, no offense to your brother, but more unsettling.
Well, as you may imagine, he's been dead for well over a decade.
Yes.
And all of this is unsettling.
I think this calls for more than just wine. And she'll get up from where she's seated on one of the low settees and just kind of flounce her skirts, walk to the door, and just say, Monty, we're going to need a couple bottles of whiskey and definitely some grappa, maybe even strega at this point. Fully expecting that her fabulous butler is within hearing range of the door, and then move herself back and sit again very gracefully on the settee.
Well,
And the butler will comply. No comment, no commentary, none needed for the current circumstances.
Ekaterina, I don't know why you saw him, because when you reached out to me, I couldn't see him. I couldn't see him until the letter was ripped out of my hand and the Contessa grabbed it. That's when I saw him. So I don't know how it was working, or why only you saw it and Amor or the Contessa and presumably Professor Thayer didn't.
Would I know if there's a reason why only I would have seen it?
The Contessa wasn't looking at the table.
It could be vantage point. It could be.
You do say he was like flouncing around the table, right?
But
not just on her.
If it was something that is of magic in nature, someone would have to be actively trying to pierce the veil to notice it, or be attuned in order to see it naturally, or something of that effect. So there are a number of factors in play. It wouldn't just be like some sort of pickpocket sneaking up on the table and only one person noticing while they're flouncing around and making a ruckus and everybody else is just acting like they're not there. This is an apparition of sorts, and as such it would play by a completely different set of rules.
So I would have to be connected to like magic.
You would basically, because of your character's connection or skill level with sorcery, the higher your skill level with sorcery, the more attuned you are to noticing the magical elements around you. There were a couple other factors at play that made it catch your eye in particular rather than the Contessa's. One had to do with the preoccupation of other things. Two, your character's natural curiosity and constantly looking for things that are out of place, and three, their true nature guided them to have an opportunity to catch it out of the periphery, at which point you focused in on it and were able to see it. While on the flip side, the other two who have a fairly high sorcery were equally high to yours.
That we're doing something else.
Or either concentrating on something else or mentally processing something else or whatever. At that time they were occupied and it was not actively making itself known. So without actively trying to concentrate on it, and then when you brought your attention, Elise's attention to it and the Contessa's, the apparition itself chose not to be visible. However, it had already made itself visible to you, and it could not hide from you without actually leaving your line of sight and then
appearing somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
fascinating.
Yeah. She'll explain that I do have a connection to a magical veil, if you will. I am practiced in sorcery, as well as I was just paying attention. You two seem to be focused on something else. I was just
I was trying to break through that glamour, which whatever was linked to my brother was, whoever it was that's linked to my brother did not want me to do, I assume. I don't know.
Could he have been used? Summoned to do someone else's bidding, which is quite disgusting to think, since he was only an 8-year-old boy.
I assume, I don't know why he would otherwise appear here of all places so many years later, and then try to make a grab for a letter.
Yes.
where I'm trying to break a glamour. It all adds up to be too strange.
It could have been something playful, as
Mhm.
he is a child. Could have been trying to play with you.
But then the gold.
Yes, that is strange.
Do not wish to be indelicate or crass or insulting or anything of the above. I am fully aware of, how such things are emotionally tied, and sometimes you have complicated feelings about people and their passing and all of these things. But how did your brother die?
He drowned.
And then she turns and looks pointedly at the fish scale. Fresh water or salt water?
It was a creek.
So fresh water.
Yes.
Mhm.
Would I be able to? I mean, this is a little from a scale, but would I be able to tell what type of fish this would come from?
If you had comparisons, you think that this scale is high enough quality that you could compare it to others and narrow it down through the process of
Mhm.
analysis and
But
the
not
scientific
by-
method, but not
yeah.
just by looking at it in a vacuum.
Yeah. If we had comparison, I could narrow it down, but I just by looking at it, I can't.
So,
So
should we acquire
is
some
it-
fish?
Well, here's the question. Is it a freshwater scale or a saltwater scale? Because they're shaped differently. I don't
Would I
know what they
be-
actually look like, but they are shaped
I
differently.
will lick it.
I believe that
Tastes
came
like
out of an
sweaty gold.
eyeball.
I've tasted stranger things coming out of stranger places.
A spectral eyeball.
Well, are there tears?
Is it salty or not?
Good God, we're insane.
Chris is just like, what the fuck is going on with this girl?
All I was
Then
asking
don't
about was the
lick it.
shape. All I was asking about was the shape. I know from like cleaning fish that freshwater, like a trout, has a different shape than
I was gonna look
like
at
an
that
anchovy.
too, but I was thinking maybe if it's salt water, it would taste like salt. That's what you would think, so I went with it.
There you go.
I mean, I'm here for it. I support you.
We will go with I don't know.
My face is hot now.
I have to look up if this fish is saltwater or freshwater. I don't remember. So I am going to assume it is saltwater. But you guys continue and I will get a better answer for you.
No worries. She looked it, but then she's also looking at it again through the jeweler glass.
Mhm.
To check check the shape. She would know at least from that. But while she's doing that, she'll also be like, "So, Elise, how are you feeling overall? You looked a little lightheaded."
Well, it was, I think, a combination of several things. There was a lot of, the spell was incredibly difficult. There was the shock of seeing my brother, who I haven't seen for well over a decade, the shock of seeing gold scales fall out of his eyes, and just the heaviness that seemed to pervade everything on our way home. But I mean, I came to terms with what happened to my brother a very long time ago, so I'll be okay. I'm just confused more than anything else.
That's understandable.
And
Go ahead.
when you're done looking at that, may I have unless you want to just look for it to see if there's anything you can tell about the type of sorcery, if it was sorcery that was used,
There's no
on it.
magic attached to the scale.
or at least magic of the type that we know. But admittedly, I know nothing of fey magic, and I don't know if I'd be able to detect any of that. Maybe.
Well, there's no magic attached to this scale.
Okay, I was wrong. It's freshwater.
Would I be able to tell that from the shape and the
Yes.
taste?
You will lick it, even though you know that you could tell by the shape, and you'll go, oh, no. Well, there is a hint of salt. It is definitely freshwater.
Some tears.
I think that might come from spectral tears, but it's definitely freshwater. And I can tell that because of the shape, not the taste.
Let
Sorry.
me you're pretty well traveled, right?
Mhm.
What is your natural sciences again, the base?
It is good.
You would say that it is, I mean, you can still say the spectral tier line if you wish, but you are pretty certain that that salt reminds you of a restaurant in Turkey.
Wait, give me a second. give me the scale back. She'll lick it again. Wait, no, it's not spectral tears.
It's definitely a Mediterranean salt. You're just not sure exactly what part of that area, but it's definitely eastern land, Mediterranean shore, or further eastland into Asia, but definitely Mediterranean salt.
This reminds me of a lovely dinner I had in a Turkish restaurant in Turkey. It's definitely Mediterranean salt, somewhere along there. Maybe heading into
Well,
Asia.
perhaps my brother has been touring the world in his afterlife, in which case
Possibly, though.
it's good for him. I don't know.
See, that's why I always, when it's necessary, lick things. You never know what kind of information you're gonna take. It's like geologists. You lick things to make sure if they're bone or mineral. It is actually a form of identifying things.
It's more about touching it to your tongue than actually licking it.
She's still gonna say that.
She's just defending her choices. It's okay.
I'm just defending my choices.
But why now? It is a very strange timing.
It does seem too deliberate.
They might be trying to tell you something about where you're heading.
Are we dealing with multiple parties here? Because you would think the person who sent you the letter would not want to take it away.
Well, the person who labeled, who was told who told me that they were sending me the letter, or the way I phrase it, the person who's the messenger who told me that this was the letter from, oh God, what's Alfonso? Right? Yeah, see, Alfonso. And this is definitely not the letter from Alfonso. I mean, he was fun, but he wasn't that much fun, and he was definitely not as well educated.
Mm-hmm.
Was he fun or was he fun?
I mean, he was moderate fun. On like a scale of 1 to 10, I'd put it at like a 6. But, definitely...
Not the best, but not the worst.
No. That was an unfortunate gentleman, and outside of Nice, that was not fun.
No.
But I'm sure that there are multiple people that are involved in these kind of things.
Yes. I don't believe it's just the one party.
I'd have another question. As she kind of like pours a large glass of grappa and then sits back with it to kind of sip on it because you do not drink that quickly. You can if you want. The only thing worse to drink quickly would be Strega. But she's sitting back and just kind of sipping on it and kind of reclining as much as you can in a full gown with, that much of a corset. You don't like actually sit all the way back, but you sit, recline sort of. Freshwater fish reminded you of Turkey, reminded your brother unfortunately drowned in a creek of fresh water.
It is a freshwater fish, but for some reason it was intermingled with Mediterranean salts.
Perhaps
I don't know.
the flavor doesn't have anything to do with the fish.
I feel like but I feel like it's too specific to not have something to do with nothing.
Well,
Wait, they're gold, and you remember Turkey. And she would get up and like kind of walk towards her. We're in the sitting room. Monte, un momento per piacere.
Yes, Contessa.
The Herodotus. Do we have a copy of the Herodotus? I don't remember.
I will check the library.
Thank you very much. There is something in Herodotus. I'm blanking on what it is called. It was about these things in Turkey, and they were the giant ants that dug gold in Turkey. But I've just like gold and salt water and fresh water and salt and mining, because I always think of mining with the salt and the thing. So I'm thinking, we shall see. It probably means nothing, but at this point, who knows? It could mean something. Or, and she kind of turns and looks slightly uncomfortable at Elise and says, or unfortunately, when your brother passed, a fairy species was also nearby and could imprint the image thereof to create a glamour of such.
Perhaps, but it'd still be interesting that they chose now of all times to use that imprint.
Mm-hmm. When you saw him, was he wearing... Do you recognize what he was wearing?
DM, did I recognize what he was wearing?
No. It was the general shape. The face was the most clear. The clothing was approximated, but kind of looked very soggy and kind of drippy. So it was more amorphous in the actual type of clothing than it was a clear design or fashion of any sort. The general silhouette would have been what you remembered him wearing that day, but that may be because that's what you remember and your brain is making that connection for you, or it's because that's what it was.
It's hard to tell because I was mostly taken by the face and the eyes and the scales, but I was 6 at the time. So my own memories of what he was wearing that day aren't...
It's not that clear.
The clearest, yeah.
All right.
Perhaps it's a souvenir. Just a memory.
I mean, it could... it's hard to tell if it was, like the Contessa said, a fairy imprint from the time or someone plucking a specific image out of my own head. And
I mean, did you actually see your brother after he drowned?
Not up close. I was deemed too young to.
But they recovered the body.
I mean, didn't talk about this with the DM, but I'm assuming.
I'm assuming they wouldn't show us a 6-year-old or 8-year-old dead brother.
The body was recovered
considering-
and buried and given
Yeah.
appropriate funeral. So it was not
Considering-
mysterious in that way. It was an unfortunate accident. You have
Mhm.
no reason to assume anything else.
Yeah, it's
No, I mean like if she didn't see the body after, she wouldn't have remembered him like all soggy and wet and like bloated or anything. That
Well,
wouldn't be like a memory in her mind.
no, and he wouldn't have. When he drowned, it wasn't like he had been laying there as a floater for days in a creek
Mhm.
kind of thing. So that's not.
Okay.
no, it was like
That
a
would not be a.
kids
mean-
playing in a creek in a freak
Yeah.
accident kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
Yeah. No. I'm just like, I don't know that she like. You probably would have been attended the funeral and had a full open casket wake, and there's a whole subgenre of Victorian portraiture involving
Yeah.
dead bodies
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
photographs.
and remember,
Yeah.
she grew up in
Yeah.
the U.S. back then.
Yeah.
So
I just think I'm thinking too deep into this.
I think so.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're so the Contessa would turn and offer to pour everyone a drink because apparently she's the only one drinking at the moment.
No, you're not. Oh no, you're not.
I feel like Ekaterina's just topping off Elisa's drink every time she takes like every other sip. It's just
Yeah, the American in her is coming out with the amount of whiskey going down the hatch.
Elise, would you like to, since you're not feeling so, maybe get more comfortable? I mean, I don't really care for proper presentation at this point, but I just mean you might be more comfortable. And I no, that's not what Contessa. Do not look at me that way.
I do not, and that's a wrong accent, y'all.
I'm sorry.
I'm not the person who is grabbing her chest in public. You got that
I
right.
was not grabbing her chest. That is not. I am so sorry, Elise, if you thought that is what I was doing. That is what your brother was. I was putting a hand to see if I could actually physically touch the spectral being, and then they poofed out, and then my hand just kept going forward.
Did you
Then pour herself a drink.
did you feel his specter? Was the air in front of me cold or?
Was it? I know I felt like a force and almost like a bubble. It popped. But was it cold? No, I didn't feel
Think
it.
of it more like when it dissipated like that. It was more like just a dream that dissipated, like just poof, gone.
But did I feel like something when I touched it?
For the briefest of seconds,
Yeah.
you felt slight resistance and then gone.
Chill, yeah. I didn't feel a temperature at all. I'm sorry.
But I did, right? On the table where the scale was left, like there was a spot that was hot. I cannot remember.
it was
Yeah,
hot.
there was so whatever it was did have some effect on the temperature. The spot where I found the scale was hot and almost glowing. That's why I spotted the scale.
So we have the scale where it landed was hot. The
Mhm.
scale is of a freshwater fish, yet it tastes like a Mediterranean salt.
Also, the fish was gold.
Yes, the fish was gold.
Does anyone know of gold creek animals or fish in the Fey realms? Does this sound like
mean,
anything anyone's
It's
encountered?
possible. I've
heard
never
of?
been there myself.
Amore's thinking, or Jose was thinking back. Can I play something for, like, a memory of that time in the Fey realm?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I do perception?
Sure.
Okay.
Whatever skill it is that you want to use to try and recall it is what I will build off of.
Okay. And that would be diamonds?
Yes, for perception.
Not the best, not the worst.
Excellent. And that perception is good now, so that's a 10.
Yep.
All right. So what level of detail are you looking for in the memory? And is there a specific memory that you are trying to recover?
Jasser would have been paying attention to stories and myth and tales while they were there. They were looking for any inspiration for any new character to play or something to perform on stage. So I think along that vein, if there were any myths about golden fish or something like that.
There is folklore in which they do mimic sometimes when they come across the veil in order to entertain themselves, and they believe they're entertaining the people when they do mimic those. Sometimes they scare them rather than actually entertain them, and they will recreate some of that folklore that they do hear about from New Europa and bring it back with different glamours and such, but not of actual people.
Yeah. It seems that this ghost was more something different. It is definitely playing. I don't know if it is bad per se, but it was not kind. À mon avis.
It's not kind. And we don't even know if it was the spirit of my brother or another spirit taking the form of my brother as part of this mean trick.
The factory love their tricks.
Oui, they do.
Contessa, what is your base sorcery?
Her base sorcery is good, and her base glamour is good.
Okay. Would you like to play a card?
Let me just double check the suit. Because sorcery is mental, correct?
Yes, and glamour is hearts, interpersonal. So hearts or diamonds, whichever you prefer.
Go big or go home, right, y'all?
Yeah. And we all have a bunch of 7s too, right?
Can I? And I still have one 2. +2.
Yes. Okay.
So I'll use that King of Diamonds, and her base sorcery is good.
So that's a 13 plus 6, so 19 plus the 2,
plus
so 21.
21. Yeah.
What will kind of come to mind for you is that all of the randomness does not actually feel as much trickster from just this inkling. You feel a reverberation in your hairpin. You know which one I'm talking about. It's not actually like vibrating, but just some sort of like connection has been established, and you feel fairly strongly that it is way too chaotic even for the Fae. Even when creating mischief or havoc, the Fae they have an outcome in mind. This had zero outcome in mind. Too many disparate parts, too many things that connect to either seemingly nothing or maybe a lot of things at the table, and you just haven't found those connections, but they're actually different pieces. So it feels much more with the diamonds. We're going to lean into that sorcery. It feels like a spell gone awry. Like somehow the wrong harmonic convergence was pulled when Elise was trying to cast the spell, and it created chaos rather than clarity.
Was it intention, like it was hers or someone else's spell that went awry?
No, hers. That somehow when she pulled that energy, maybe it was the location, maybe it's the number of things on her mind, maybe it was just the energy, like just the energy that's available. She pulled the wrong kind of energy to try and cast this particular clarity spell, and instead it sowed chaos across the table.
So I guess what she would turn and look at Giselle and just say, this doesn't feel, and she'd kind of like have her bring her, have the drink in her right hand and like kind of bring her left hand up to just, you can see a bronze bauble like right at the top of her corset, just kind of sitting there, which she's kind of shown off a couple times as a very long straight pin. And she kind of like negligently leaves the hand there on top of it for a moment, and then was like, this doesn't feel fey. There's no purpose to it. It feels almost like something went wrong with the magic. Like the spell, we were looking to do something clarifying, right? To see through something. And the magic went wrong, and instead of clarifying, it made a bigger mess.
Like Oberon and the explosion.
Yes.
I don't understand the reference, but that is entirely possible. As I said, the spell was evading me as I was trying to break through that glamour, so
spell gone wrong then.
Spell gone wrong causes more chaos. We see more things. Everything goes wrong, and then and unfortunately for you, it is that you are the caster of the spell, and therefore the target, and you are the one who sees things that are emotionally irrelevant.
But do we think there was a reason to the chaos in terms of the gold or the fish?
Perhaps there was another fish nearby, or the gold from the letter.
But
It drew from the gold in the letter, perhaps.
It could
and
have.
manifested as a scale. That possibly.
But the fish that is something that's physical. I think everything else is clouding it in what we are seeing. But this is something that we should know a little bit about, but we might come to it a little bit later.
We are looking ultimately for a buoy.
Yes, a buoy that goes underwater instead of sits on top of the water, which means it's not a very effective buoy for what it needs to do. Because,
Because there's something in there that this key opens.
But Mediterranean waters are not far from where we are. In terms of the taste.
No, they're just like right out there, and she kind of like points out the front door.
Right there.
Yeah, is it? I don't remember my geography of Venice is on the Mediterranean or on one of the other seas.
Well, it's technically on the Adriatic
Sea, I think.
Yeah,
the Mediterranean is everything. The Mediterranean is everything below.
Yeah,
but it's also everything about it. So it's the Adriatic and the what's the other one on the other side of Greece?
The other A1?
Yeah. That I'm blanking on at the moment.
It's okay.
I'd have to look at the map.
It's a Monday.
Yeah, I would. Yes. At this moment, you'd actually hear Monty clearing his throat from the doorway and entering. I present Professor Thea and
there we
your
go.
book.
Sorry. My book. Thank you very much.
And we shall take a break.
Ooh.
Stick around, everyone. We will be back in a few minutes.
And we have a surprise for you from last week.
Yes, that I have to put up. I'll upload that during the break.
Yes, something was earned from last week. You can reap the fruits of your labors.
All right, grab something to drink, grab something to eat, stretch, walk around, and we will be right back.
You have been cordially invited to a world of wonder and intrigue, of steam and invention, of magic and mysteries, where nobles wave playbills at scientists who deep in thought nearly trip over pixies delivering news to tinkerers beneath the stage of New Europa. Sit back and enjoy the scene as the actors act, the singers sing, and the players play out the adventures of Castle Falkenstein. You have been cordially invited to a world of wonder and intrigue, of steam and invention, of magic and mysteries, where nobles wave playbills at scientists who deep in thought nearly trip over pixies delivering news to tinkerers beneath the stage of New Europa. Sit back and enjoy the scene as the actors act, the singers sing, and the players play out the adventures of Castle Falkenstein. You have been cordially invited to a world of wonder and intrigue, of steam and invention, of magic and mysteries, where nobles wave playbills at scientists who deep in thought nearly trip over pixies delivering news to tinkerers beneath the stage of New Europa. Sit back and enjoy the scene as the actors act, the singers sing, and the players play out the adventures of Castle Falkenstein. have been cordially invited to a world of wonder and intrigue, of steam and invention, of magic and mysteries, where nobles wave playbills at scientists who, deep in thought, nearly trip over pixies delivering news to tinkerers beneath the stage of New Europa. Sit back and enjoy the scene as the actors act, the singers sing, and the players play out the adventures of Castle Falkenstein.
And we're back, everyone. Hello. So, as promised last week, something happened. I don't remember what prompted me to do that.
Donations. We broke you with donations.
Donations, and then somebody
Oh, yeah,
started
so
talking
many
about juggling,
donations.
and then we're like, we should do a juggling video. Godless Lawyer might have made a pun about it. That might have been what started everything. I mean, the pun lord does pun quite often.
And I do remember you saying that if you get enough donations for you to up Professor Thayer's performance.
Oh, that would be performance. Yeah. Which has prompted me to show you my actual juggling skills.
And I have chosen to downgrade Professor Thayer's performance after watching this video.
So, fellow members of the cast, the video is on Discord. If you want to watch it. Otherwise, I'm going to switch to that scene. I'll have to fix the size of the video, probably. But, yeah, so see you in a couple of seconds. Hey, look at that. It doesn't even work. What the hell? Wow, that's just...
You can do it.
Well, I'm trying, believe me. Ah, this is me. But the video is crooked. It needs to be flipped. There you go.
Yes.
I do appreciate the nose.
Yeah.
The nose is on point.
It's all showmanship.
Yeah, get into it.
All right, that was long enough.
Yeah.
Hi. So now you know how good of a juggler I am.
You are a great
About
sport,
as good-
Simon. Thank you so
About
much.
as good as a juggler as I am.
I think you actually are one step above my abilities. So.
I could throw 3 balls in the air and then not catch them too.
I might, somehow drop one rather than throw it in the air. So, on that note, as this conversation is happening, and there's lots of digging into different information and remembering different places and different details, and the professor steps in to the room and is announced by Monty. We turn to Ekaterina, who in this very moment is kind of drifting off as her brain wanders. And she will reveal 1, possibly 2 things to the audience to demonstrate the 2 divine revelations she still has to disclose. After you.
Yes. As she's drifting off, she was trying to make sure that Elise was well and that she wasn't feeling lightheaded or faint, and almost looking, however, in a bit more of a medical way. And as she's drifting off, that taking on that role again reminded her of a time where she had to do that for herself and possibly one other person. As I'll connect the two. Why not? Um, in one of her many travels, in her curiosity, she had found herself at the wrong place at the wrong time. Um, and after a bit of a fight, she found herself wounded by a strange projectile she had not encountered before. And quickly she had to help herself out. Um, and somebody else, as they also seem wounded, to stop bleeding, make sure nothing got infected, take care of herself several days on. So with that, I would like to raise her. I believe it's called. Da-da-da-da, physician.
Okay, so physician will go from average to good.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the second one?
After she was done taking care of herself, curiosity struck her of this curious object that had hit her, and um, to the audience, it would seem simple. It's a pistol, a gun. But it was early in the day of those inventions, and she was curious. Um, so she may have, on purpose, found herself in a different scenario with these on, so she could. She didn't know how to procure one, so the best way to study something is to take it from someone who has it, obviously. Um, so, by legal reasons, she cannot say how she got it, but she was able to procure a pistol. Um, and she's a bit more gray in the area of what is necessarily a good invention and a bad invention. So she was curious about this one. So, with her study of a pistol and how it worked, I would like to up her marksmanship.
Sounds good to me. Seems to be part of her collecting of new and interesting things.
So maybe she has a pistol on her. Who knows?
Maybe. We'll see if she's packing heat later. Wait, we know she's packing heat. We've seen the blowtorch. And some steamy scenes with Elise over there. Brief, but available. So, Professor Thayer, make your entrance, sir.
Oh, good evening. I see you are well into your glasses.
Would you care for some, Professore?
Absolutely. The air is a bit chilly on the canals.
Yes, were your nocturnal wanderings exciting, at least?
Exciting? Not so much. I did a lot of reflection, a lot of thinking.
Did they reveal anything, these reflections?
Venice is way more interesting than I thought it was.
Anything's interesting if you look at the right places.
I don't want to pry, but it took time longer than I thought it would if you were following.
Oh, I stopped by the hotel to grab the rest of my stuff. I trust you do not mind, Contessa, if I moved some of my belongings upstairs.
Like I said, you are welcome to remain. And she just smirks at him.
The amenities are definitely one step higher, at least one step higher than the ones at the hotel.
Good to know. So, we know that the gold might be a thing. We're pretty sure that some of it is dealt with chaos. The spell broke. There are fae involved. Somebody's using glamours to, disguise text. It's been a day.
Mm-hmm.
I trust. What happened with the letter that almost flew off to the wind?
Oh, do you mean this one? And she kind of pulls it out of her pocket.
Yes, this one, exactly.
It's a little rumpled, but otherwise it's fine.
Did you glean anything more from it?
Oh, not yet. We were waiting for your fine accompaniment.
Oh, I thought that you would.
We're
No
studying
matter.
this gold fish scale, which is a fish scale, which is a golden fish scale, not gold that's been meant to look like a fish scale, but an actual fish scale that is gold. That is from a freshwater fish, but taste of Mediterranean salt. That came from the black eyes of the apparition of Elise's dead brother who drowned when he was 8.
So, as you might be able to tell, we've been busy with other things.
Are any of these bottles absinthe?
No.
Oh,
But
I
we can get you
wish.
some of that. Would you like some? I'm so sorry, I should have asked.
Oh no, I'm good with whiskey now, but
We can chase the ferry later.
yeah,
Even Ekaterina's drinking at this point. She has a glass of whiskey.
I could go for some whiskey. What? Okay,
It's out
so...
of reach. I can't give it to you.
Sorry.
The whiskey's out of reach. I can't get to it. Sorry.
What is the link between your... Or is there a link between your dearly departed brother, Elise, and the person we're looking for?
we
That-
think. Yeah, go ahead.
No,
Contessa.
no. You do it. You do it.
I was saying that we think that the appearance of my brother might have been an effect of just a manifestation of chaos and a spell gone wrong. Because I was having a lot of resistance in my weaving, and it could be that due to various reasons, the wrong thread got pulled, and instead of clearing up the glamour, it muddled everything more. And since I was the caster, it might have picked a random memory. We are still a little curious as to the connection to gold, given that that has come up over and over and over again. And also the apparition left nothing behind other than this gold scale.
Yes.
So there could be something more to that, but I don't know if the appearance of my brother of itself is relevant. Perhaps. I don't know. Or it could be something more nefarious. We're just not sure, but it seems more like chaos magic, given some other folks' experience here with the Fae. It didn't seem like the Fae to them, and I trust their word for it.
Gold, you say?
Mm-hmm.
The epitome of the alchemist.
Ekaterina, do you still have the scale?
Yes, I do. She reaches into her jacket pocket like the outside one. Just gives it to you. I didn't know where else to put it.
Maybe we are dealing with an alchemist. Able to create cold iron, able to turn anything into gold.
Possibly.
Maybe the magic showed us an additional clue, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I might strangle Willoughby next time I see him.
Her brother?
Who's Willoughby again?
Oh, the man who left me the note with the key.
Oh, right.
You're going to
My
literally kill
contact.
the messenger rather than the one who crafted the message.
I won't kill him, just strangle him. It's different.
That is
Okay.
fair.
True.
It was someone the Contessa recognized who brought the letter that was looked like it was addressed by Alfonso, correct?
Correct. It is someone within your contacts here.
Yes. That's what she was. That's what I'm remembering. Well, Amor,
We
your friend, which is whom we were looking at the letter, your friend, the unfortunate things that happened in your. Well, you were busy elsewhere. Was there any? Do you remember when we were in Barcelona? The unfortunate house trip individual, with the portal and the chair and the thing and the.
we
Do you remember what that person actually looked like? Because I never saw them. Ever. Somebody dropped a staircase on them before I did.
I did not see them as themselves.
Sorry, someone dropped a staircase on someone.
To be fair,
It was crumbling already.
Oh, okay.
Sort
Sorry, we're
of.
talking about magic. I thought someone just popped a staircase on top of someone. Sorry, continue.
And to be fair, the individual that we dropped the staircase on was an unseelie who was actively trying to murder us.
Ah, that's
Well,
fair.
They were wearing the faces of others.
Oh, that's
That they had
big no-no.
stolen.
Oh, that's big no-no.
Which is why I was very concerned for Elise.
Oh, face stealer.
A changeling.
Elise is enough into her cups where she does like do a little bit of this when no one's looking, or she thinks someone's looking.
Yeah. And Katarina's gonna like sneak in quick, lean into Elise is like, "You're yourself, dude. Don't worry."
Good.
But
You smell like you. It's fine.
So I don't remember exactly how all of the events unfolded. Chris, did we get a look at the person after
the Contessa, like, I know that the Contessa didn't. Oberon did, and Jacer did.
Yes, and Carolina did.
And Carolina did, but the Contessa had been unconscious and then woke up and was in the back room doing something else. So I never got to see.
Yes, you would have seen that. That was the last face that was shown.
Okay.
The last face that was shown as they changed kind of, what is that, T-1000 style in the molten metal.
It was nondescript.
Indeed, it was very nondescript.
It just struck me that there's so much effort going into hiding who somebody is and what they are doing, and the changing of the letters, and then the changing of the content of the letters, which we still have to figure out, because what the content of this letter says, there's also a glamour on it, which I know, and I'm sure if I put some actual effort and time into it, we could see about breaking it. But Elise is much better at that sort of thing than I am. I'm a true novice at such things. I'm merely aware.
It is interesting to think that an unseelie who cannot be seen would lead us as much.
Exactly. So, Professore, did any revelations on your wanderings?
Oh, yes, there was one such revelation. I recall the time I almost got run over by a car in London.
I mean, it is London. That's not. I can believe that.
Yes.
Yes, that
It's
revelation made me better in athletics for some reason.
That's funny that you mentioned. I was thinking about this time I was taking care of my wound from a bullet wound, and
Just drinks.
Life is indeed strange. I have to say, Contessa, my mind is actually very busy with the second part of my lecture tomorrow. But I would... You know Venice, don't you? You probably know the people that...
The Contessa drinks.
I haven't heard the question yet.
You know of its people? Of its secrets?
The Contessa drinks.
You strike me as someone who keeps abreast of murmurs and whispers. Of parlor talk and gossip. Has the name Madame Cora Chillums have said anything to you?
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
If I were to play, that social connections is hearts, right?
I think it's connections is spades for social, I believe. So it is social.
Connections is social, yes.
Yes.
So it is spades?
I think, yes, that should be spades. Because physical is clubs.
Is clubs. So if I play this King of Spades, what do my connections know about Madame Chillums?
Okay.
I can't, and I'm sorry, I
there's
can't
no
say
S.
Chillems or
There is
Chillum.
no S. It's just chillum.
Because now I just hear in my head Chillins, but that's a very specific term, y'all, and
And it is not
there
that.
yet.
So, let's see. So that would be a 13 plus. Is that good or great for connections?
Her social graces, her connections are great.
Yes, great.
Her connections are great.
So that is 8. So that's 21. Okay. And we're after the break. So everybody has a fresh +2.
True.
Let's see. 21. You're going to have picked up a few things while you've been in Venice that are related. One is the detail that about her husband's death. That is one that obviously people have made comparisons to the two of you. There really is no comparison other than the fact that it's part of gossip talk.
And correct me, the gossip talk is that her husband died or that she killed her husband?
Yes. Also that he was cursed. Also, what other kind of gossip would there be? That he had gotten into league with one Professor Moriarty and some sort of upstart called the World Crime League. And when they came calling and he was not able to pay up, they took his life instead.
Next question. Mistresses, courtesans, hookers, all the other wonderful, great, juicy gossip that would be relevant to know about the dead husband.
Actually, not much. He was considered to be fairly devout in his religious beliefs. He also was kind of cold. His last name is not Chillum. That is her maiden name. His last name was where is it? That's not it. His last name was Fontana.
Fontana.
Mhm. And that family in Venice, while isn't necessarily a major player, they are active. They do have a long lineage. They have been part of the ruling council for that family has been connected to that ruling council in some position of influence since its inception. But they've never been major players.
Members of the Senate.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, if not a member of the Senate in that particular generation, they were best friends or had gotten someone into the Senate in their place. Things of that nature always seem to be well connected and yet never profiting to the level that some people might assume for the level of connections they seem to have.
So one could make an argument for kingmakers versus kings themselves.
Correct. But not on the level of kings, much smaller in scale. Yeah. City-state versus country or continent.
Yep. A power behind but not.
Absolutely. So it would make sense that the rumors about them focusing primarily on heirlooms as wanting them returned versus anything that would have been purchased or that was not directly connected to their lineage or reputation, they were much less concerned with. They also have not seemed to be concerned at all, or at least not outwardly concerned at all about any of the gossip or rumors about their son. The family itself seems to be moving along without a hitch. You wouldn't say cold, but more in that not prepared to play their hand sort of way. So as far as Cora goes, she's not even considered connected to the Fontanas anymore. For all intents and purposes, she is kind of free-floating. As someone with tentative influence in the city, she seems to purchase more influence or trade and barter more influence than she actually possesses in her own right. So she doesn't necessarily ask favors as much as she might trade favors or buy favors, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And that's that's where the big road like splits between the comparisons that people make between you and her.
Then the last question is, did she have a title before was she merely wealthy, or did she have a title before she got married?
The 21, and some of the access that the Contessa has garnered over the last couple seasons, she will know that someone by that name is not known to have either. So either Chillins is a pseudonym.
Mm-hmm.
And she is playing a role similar to maybe the confession that Josser had given tonight. Or she came from nothing. Possibly both.
But if she had come from nothing, that would have been talked about.
It would have been talked about, and yet it clearly was not, or if it was at one point, it has not been since you have entered into the city.
But that, again, would be something that would be talked about if their comparisons are being made that she killed her husband, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the young upstart who married above her station and then murdered her husband to achieve his fortune. That would be gossip that would have gotten around a lot.
There was some of that because there was more influence with the Fontanas than her, but no one pressed that point.
Ah, very interesting.
If pushed, they would change the subject.
So, look, Contessa...
It would be better to not speak ill of the Fontanas, according to the people that the Contessa has spoken to, than it would be to perpetuate a rumor that would besmirch them.
Ah, very interesting.
And be honest.
So the Contessa, after the question that the good Professore asks, will take a drink and say, which rumors would you like to know? The rumor about her murdering her husband being cursed, the fact that she may or may not have, come from absolutely nowhere and had some serious issues there.
If possible, I would like to learn everything there is about this person.
What are you going to give me for it?
Katerina just looks at Elise like...
Elise sinks further back into her couch, kind of like trying to Homer Simpson her way.
Yeah.
Interesting business proposition, Contessa. How does one pay for information in Venice? Or I should say, how does one pay for information in your house?
Usually a nickel exchange is good enough. Unless you have something else you wish to offer.
Charm sometimes works.
But very rarely.
I wink.
She'll wink back.
How about a gift?
I love
That's what they're
gifts.
calling it these days.
To be fair, I've had a lot of those kind of gifts too.
I mean, I can put it in a box if that's what you're...
Sorry. Thank you, Kenny.
Oh no, what's going on? Yes, how about a gift? Exchange of a present. A sentimental heirloom in exchange for everything you know.
Whose heirloom is it?
It's been in my family for generations. And by generations, I mean, it probably originated somewhere in Italy.
Really? I'm intrigued. Hey, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Perception is diamonds, right?
Yes, indeed it is.
So if I wanted to see if he was lying out his ass.
Mm-hmm.
Chris,
Yes.
is lying diamonds or is it heart?
I would say hearts. It's interpersonal.
Okay.
I would go with probably something like, or you could go spades with social graces if you really want to kind of try and play that up. But you know that is one of her strengths. I would go with either charisma or performance.
I'm going to go with my charisma. I mean, that's kind of why he's good at charisma.
Yep.
PvP!
So,
I mean, it's going to happen anyways. We knew this was going to happen.
You have a good charisma?
Yeah, so it's a 6.
Okay.
And I have... What? Perception is great. And I have a +2 that I'm going to burn on it.
So great. That's a 19. That would be a 21 to Simon's 20 without burning a +2.
Because I don't have any +2s to burn.
They all refreshed at the break.
Oh!
Your choice.
No, I'll keep it.
Because the Contessa has been... You're weird to her.
It is a partial success. You will know that he is holding back. There is some element of what he is telling you that you know is definitely false. You also know that there's some element of what he is telling you that he is not giving you all of the details. Everything else, you are uncertain about how true it is, but there is truth in it. You just are unsure as to what parts are which.
She respects his game. An heirloom, I would love to hear the story of at some point. If not only to see and to understand. But heirlooms should be for families. She kind of smirks at that and like looks at Sarah, just kind of like side eyes, like you know that she's not really believe what she says, because you've seen her take some things that don't belong to her before. Although in a context of which she is investigating things and maybe pulled a portrait off a wall and a couple other things. It was a house. It was curved. It was, anyways. So I will tell you what I know of the good Madam Chillum, whatever. Chillum. And she would regale him with most of it and then get to the interesting point. She'd turn to like, in kind of, again, side to like everyone else. And the very interesting part is that most people of note or rank in this continent I am aware of. If not them personally, then their families. There is no one of note, or rank, or financial wealth enough to attract the attention of someone like the Fontanas, whose last name is Chillum. And somebody is being very careful to not make any correlation between the she murdered her husband and a young peasant girl who above her station who may or may not have killed a wealthy noble. What has the good Lady Chillum done to attract your attention?
I work links and correlations and theories in my mind. It's sort of a pastime. The story of Madame Chillum's is one that is often used as an excuse for the murder of life partner. Husband was cursed. Husband disappeared. Inherits the whole fortune. Displays extravagant wealth after the departure of said husband. Normally this hides the truth. It is often a cover for the real story. I do not know if Madame Chillums did anything to her husband. But if he was cursed, you know, since magic is a thing, and he looks to Elise, then perhaps, for once, the story is actually correct. I walked by her house.
Oh, you walked on the street where she lived. She's... I guess, that, you know, your choice. I don't know. It is getting late. I can't think any further. Although Herodotus is always entertaining, I'll probably read some of that tonight. But... And for those who are percolating that question in the back of your mind, no, I didn't kill my late husband. He unfortunately died. He was in Roma and I was in Syracuse at the time.
Oh, I was not thinking about that at all. Though if you did, congratulations.
No, it was, I actually liked my husband. He was actually very nice.
Okay, at least.
I mean, you know, he wasn't the great love of my life or anything, but we were very, you know, comfortable.
We're friends.
Exactly. With occasional benefits. But
She
no.
raises her drink to that.
But I will say that you are all welcome in my house for this evening. And for as long as you wish. I extend to you all guest rights and will offer you the same protection I would anyone else under my roof.
I feel safe, for sure. You are a woman of many mysteries, Contessa, and I appreciate that.
Oh, I have the heirloom up in my room if you want to grab it before going to
Heirloom,
sleep.
is that what they're calling it these days? Up in your room, where she would... sorry, I've had one too many drinks.
I can see that.
I want to say she, like, does that, like, drunk hiccup, but if anyone's paying attention, it's like a little bit of smoke comes out.
Has she taken the eyeglasses off? Or sunglasses off?
No, she still has them on.
Mm-hmm. So, you are all welcome to beds, yours or others, and enjoy yourselves. Just say if you are concerned about your own safety, Miyamichi.
No, I feel safe here. I just have a lot to think about. And if you'll have noticed, like, Chasser's only had, like, maybe 2 glasses of wine. They haven't been tying it on.
I can assure you that, well, I'm with you, my friends. You'll be safe.
But of course. So.
I'm good with guns, that's why.
I used to know somebody who was very good with guns. They made things explode into fire when they fired and shot them.
Oh, I should probably adjust my guns to do that. That'd be pretty cool. I could probably tinker with some something or other like that.
I could write you a letter of introduction if you wish to write him.
Sure.
I'll do that in the morning. What? I'll have to write him. It'll be fine. But then she'll like just turn to and I'll say, turn to you all and say, well, make yourselves welcome and at home. And I will see you all sometime in the daylight hours. Possibly. Probably. Oh, we're all going to the Good Professore's lecture in a civilized hour. And if you wish to bring said gift, you know where to find my room, Professore. And she'll just kind of like sashay out.
Looks at Elise, looks at Amor.
And just throw the wink over her shoulder.
Congratulations, Professor.
Congratulations on what?
On your heirloom.
There is nothing to congratulate me for. This is hard work and skill.
Okay. TMI, Professor.
Well,
It
I
is
too
getting
shall.
late.
Yes.
Sorry, this is why I don't drink.
I would say
And-
you need to do it more because it's been rather entertaining for the rest of us.
Only for you, my dearest niece.
But as our dear friends Amor and the professor pointed out, it is getting rather late. So, and it has been a long day.
Yes. You'll be alright, Elise.
Oh well, I might have some interesting dreams, but it won't be the first time.
Should you ever need to talk, know where my room is.
I appreciate it.
Good night, Amor. Professor. Elise.
Bonsoir.
Good night.
Good night.
She'll leave.
And then there were three.
Oh, Elise was leaving at the
Oh,
same
okay.
time. Yeah.
And then there were two.
The professor would finish his drink and then just go.
And then there was one.
So does that make Jesse the last one out?
Yeah.
At that time, Monty would enter and ask if there was anything that you required further of him, or if you were planning on retiring on your own.
No, I am about to head up as well.
Excellent. Well, I hope you sleep well, good sir. It's good to see you again, José.
Merci, you as well.
And if you need anything, you know where to find me.
Of course.
And he will then wander off. Is there anything that José would like to do before heading upstairs?
I think they finish their wine. They kind of walk across the room, surveying just everything, thinking, and then they too head up.
Okay. As they ascend the stairs, we're going to pan over to Ekaterina and Elise. Last time, when you walked upstairs, you found that your rooms were across from one another, not across the hall from one another. So we see the two of you, the pair of you, walking down the hallway and reaching that point again. Do you wish each other a good night? Do you have a conversation? Something else?
I would wish her a good night. And not seriously tell her, I understand losing people who are important to you. I understand. Reliving those moments can be very traumatic. So I do mean it if you do need to talk.
And I appreciate it. I think I might need to talk eventually, but right now it's all.
Fresh.
I think I need to process it first. It was strange seeing what I saw in the middle of casting the spell, and a time when I was trying to pierce through reality and look at what was beneath, and so it was disconcerting that as to what was reality and what wasn't. And honestly, had you not mentioned something, I would have just chalked it all up to my imagination. And so I'm not entirely sure, but I think I do need to think on that. And perhaps we will, at the very least, it's fascinating that a spell gone wrong can pull something out of nothing based on
Magic
what
is
we've seen so
strange.
far.
Yes, magic is strange that way. And I do not mean this as a cheap comment, but if you do need company for the night, I'd be more than happy to provide that. Just comfort, nothing else.
I think that might be nice just to
Is that how
not
they're
be
called?
alone.
I'm not muted. I'm not muted.
But as I was saying, some company would be nice.
Well, your room or mine?
I think the limited acquaintance with my room might be comforting as well,
All right.
even if only for one night.
I'll see you in a moment. I'll go get comfortable.
All right.
Yeah, she'll just get in her jammies and then come to Lisa's room.
Aw, jammies.
Jammies!
Wholesome cuddling ensues.
Yeah, yeah. Wholesome cuddling, no talk of like Italian heirloom.
As we fade to black upon the wholesomeness that was just displayed, we find ourselves circling back to the Contessa, who made her way to her room. And shortly after, there's a knock at the door.
She would go and kind of crack it open a little bit.
Is it me?
It's you.
I'm holding up a sword.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what they're calling it these days?
So is that because you need to compensate for something?
It's a very tiny sword, Contessa.
30 inches is not a tiny sword.
It's still smaller than a rapier or a broadsword.
Yes, but it doesn't need to be very long, as long as you can stab well enough with it.
It's actually 23 inches in length.
Yeah, with a 6-inch.
No, the entire thing is only 23 inches
okay.
in length.
No, it's a very small gladius. It
is on the very small end of what constitutes a gladius.
Look, Contessa, it's a very small sword because it was kept under freezing temperatures. Under regular temperatures, it would be longer.
And there's just this moment of you see her face, it's like I've heard that one before, frequently.
This, and he would put the gladius in like both hands and extend it toward the Contessa. This is.
Why don't you come in? And she'd kind of open the door and invite him in.
I didn't think we were that close, Contessa.
Have you met me? Inviting men into my bedroom is not close.
But what will people think?
That I'm either having a good time, a moderately decent time, or that you're, you know.
Wow, what does it mean, Contessa? Ah, Deirdre, stop
that would be
moving so
me.
much. I keep switching your camera. Okay, good.
Okay. That would be nieces. And a very good time with Vienna. The politics were complicated, but the Duke was friendly enough. I'm sorry, are you going to be worried about my reputation, or should I be worried about ruining yours?
No, I'm just thinking about what you think of me in my lectures then. Am I in the yeah category?
Your lecture? I don't know. I don't know what secrets you want to keep hidden. So.
I am an open book, Contessa.
No, you're not. Neither am I. I've met a lot of open books.
I'm an open book,
Simon?
Contessa. Yes?
The Gladius is also defrosted.
Oh, so it's 30 inches now?
No.
Okay.
But it is inscribed.
I think Edwin, as he's talking to the Contessa, would try to sneak a peek at the sword. And at the Contessa.
There seems to be that seems to be. There is a name.
Uh-huh.
And there is not only that, but there is runes of unknown origin to the professor.
Okay.
Yes, unknown origin to the professor. Inscribed on it, the inscriptions, they look as though they might be acid etched, but they are black as onyx, not a gradation of the color of metal, which is quite shiny.
Mm.
And then there is another inscription across the crossguard that simply says Spiritus Gladius, and the name is Philippi.
As I was saying, Contessa, I am like an open book, except I'm written in a cipher.
Ciphers are fun. I like playing with them. Do you just want to actually, look at it instead of like doing this half up and down thing? Because, let me tell you something, Professore. A woman like me, or Ekaterina, or even Elise, will tell you that they know immediately when a man is looking at her, and whether that looking at her has anything sexual, because they make eye contact instead of looking somewhere below their chin line. I mean, they are very nice, but they're, And considering that you keep looking at what is in your hands, that tells me that you haven't actually looked at it well enough.
Touché, Contessa. Do you then want to take a closer look at my sword?
The one in your hands or the one in your pants? Because one of those is more likely to happen at the moment.
Chris, I have a question for you. Is there a table or a container, a trash can, anything nearby outside of the Contessa's room within arm's reach? You're muted.
I will actually go turn to the Contessa on that.
I mean, I would assume this is like kind of a mini suite, but not like a big one. You know, and it's her bedroom, so there's probably like a little small sitting area, and then there's like a bed, and there's probably like a very nice balcony in the back with picture windows, because balconies and the Contessa kind of go together. So yes, there's a small table and sitting area in front of a fireplace.
Is it within arm's reach?
Probably, because we haven't walked all the way across, right inside the door.
Okay, so the moment she says that, the professor would quickly put the sword, like toss the sword onto the table.
I said don't answer that.
We didn't hear you.
I didn't
You
hear
were
that.
muted.
Oh, sorry. Don't answer that. We're going to shift to Joseph, because I was muted. I meant to stop you.
Okay.
Before you fully answer.
Well, nothing happened.
That's what we're going to start with next episode. So we're going to end on Joseph ascending the stairs and walking down the hall toward the room that was provided for you. And you can see Edwin in the doorway of the Contessa's suite. And he's holding something. It's probably that heirloom he was talking about. And you notice he's about to cast it aside. Do you do anything or just wander off to your room?
If it caught their eye, they would wait until the door closes before entering their room.
Well, then. It caught their eye. I don't know. How out of the ordinary would it feel for Josser to see a man in the doorway of the Contessa's bargaining for entrance?
Okay. I think what this more or less is that the overall discussion of the heirloom downstairs didn't seem plausible. And so, as much as they were paying attention to that and everything else, they to see that the heirloom was in hand, I think they would be more interested in what was going on with the sword than actually a person entering the Contessa's room.
Fair enough. Then, yes, it would have caught their eye as they had turned toward their door, hand on the knob, looking kind of slightly out of the periphery, slightly tilting their head. And it's there that we will fade for this episode. I want to thank our audience for joining us as we told yet another story, as we explore puzzles and mysteries in Vienna. Simon, over to you.
Hello. I am muted. Well, I was. Anyway, I'm not anymore. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you so much to all of you who hung out in chat. Thank you for the subs, the follows, everything. Thank you for watching us on YouTube. Thank you, cast, for coming tonight. Before I finish with the spiel and everything, let's go around the table. Tell us who you are, where we can find you. I'll begin with Adriana.
Hello. Just making sure I wasn't muted. My name's Adriana, and you can find me at Elizavamp with 2 P's over on Twitter. I play lots of games on the internet, like this one, and I also play on Indoor Adventures every Thursday night at 8 o'clock EST PM, where we're playing a modified version of Acquisition Incorporated, and Saturday nights I play over at my my home base, which is Plot Hunters. We're currently playing through Journey of Dragons. Getting that one and Horde of the Dragon Queen mixed up. Um, so if you like supporting spaces that are all LGBTQ and all POC cast, come and join us because we have lots of fun and we make lots of jokes like we do here. I also DM a very loosely D&D homebrew game for my friends over at the Hype Goblin at 9 a.m. EST Sunday mornings. And as well, if you follow me on Twitter, you might see some art that I do. And if you do, I have commissions open. So go ahead and check that out if you'd like. That's me.
All right, moving on to Kenny.
Hi, I wrote this out earlier because I was plugging myself on a channel. So you can find me on Twitter at PunderDrone. I'm a retweeter, serial liker, lurker, and occasional commenter. I narrate and play on shows for Experience Points. You can find us on Twitter at EQ Points. On Saturday, every other Saturday, we play a Starfinder game in which I am the narrator. Currently, we are playing the Dawn of Flame Adventure Path, and we are in the middle of Book 2, Soldiers of Brass. And every other Sunday, we play Numenera, and that is narrated by my husband, Kelric, or at Cormelon. But yeah, and then on Monday nights, we played this game with these fabulous people.
Thank you, Kenny. Pooja.
Hi, I'm Pooja. You can find me at Pooja on Twitter and at Pujaparwaki on Instagram. Besides being here with these awesome people on Mondays, on Tuesdays, I'm on a multi-fandom, multi-system, we change it up all the time, show called Flights of Fandom. We played a absolutely insane Mass Effect one-shot last week, and starting tomorrow, we will be doing a 6-week Star Wars run set in the Scum and Villainy system. So that's going to be tomorrow on Manapot Studios, and then this Friday and every other Friday after that, I'm on a Constantinople by Night Vampire the Masquerade game, also on Manapot Studios. Although I don't know what's going to happen this week because every time I look at the news, Laura looks like she's getting crazier and crazier, and people are throwing about possible category 4 or 5 storms, and I'm in Houston, so we will see what I actually end up doing. But in the meantime, you can keep abreast of what I'm doing on the internet, on Twitter.
Chris, since we're ending, I'm not going to skip over you, and I'll keep the Contessa for last.
Fair enough. She can be the closing act. My name is Chris Geary. You can find me on Twitter at Chris Geary. You can find me here on Monday nights as the host of Adventures in Castle Falkenstein, and back here on Wandering DM on Friday nights for the Cyberpunk Red campaign as I reprise my role as Mr. White, aka Dr. Frost, in our, we're in season 2, and rumor has it there will be a season 3 following that. Beyond that, you can find myself working on a project with a bunch of other wonderful humans as we work on a custom tabletop RPG called Omens Rising. And as we get closer and closer to having something to put out there, I continue to mention it because it will be posted on the Twitter page that I went and secured, which is at Omens Rising. Feel free to follow it because as soon as we start posting there, that's when we're going to have things to share. So, thank you.
Thank you. And Deirdre.
Oh, hey, y'all. This was fun. I love this. I love all of you. I love this drama. Thank you so much. It'll be great. I can't wait to see what happens next. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Deirdre Donlin or Craxworth as Meaphoria as you see me around on Twitch. And you can find me on Wednesday over on Laugh Love Lindy's channel for Witcher Family of Wraiths. There's drama. There's awkward romantic triangles. There's banshees and hordes of undead. I'm sure it'll be fine. And then I'll be back here Thursday and then Friday. Oh, wait, and Saturday when I get to be in the driver's seat for Black Flag Rapscallion pirate campaign and the consequences that my wonderful players give me, who may or may not be plotting to release a demon on the world, and maybe, sacrificing other members of the crew to do so. But we'll find out Saturday. Until next time, check my Twitter because I was posting where I'm going to be, the wonderful people I get to hang out with, all the great stories we get to tell, and actually a bunch of the games that I write, because I do that too. So I'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, Deirdre. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all of our sponsors, Artal Saurian Games, Roll20, Found Familiar, Magen Press. There's so many of them. I need to have a checklist somewhere. And thank you to our partners, Level Up Dice. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We will see you again on Thursday for Dragon Age, but there might be a special surprise stream going up on Thursday morning / afternoon, as Thursday marks the release date of Wasteland, which means that I will probably start over our Twitch Plays Wasteland that we had done with the beta originally. So basically, Twitch gets to build a character and gets to act as the character in combat, which leads to interesting things happening. So that's it. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We will see you again next week for some more Castle Falkenstein. And before leaving, here's another video of me juggling. Bye-bye.